Welcome to Serenity Secrets podcast. This is a special segment where I can invite my co-host, Dr. Cicely Williams, in so we can dive into all things mental health for our Mindfulness Mondays segment. Dr. Cicely, could you introduce yourself for those who are not aware of who you are?
Okay. Well, as she said, I am Dr. Cicely Williams. I am the owner, lead therapist at G&J Counseling here in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Been in therapy for the past 10 years, working with all age groups. I am married, I have 2 children, and I am a resident of Arkadelphia, originally from Camden, Arkansas.
How old were you when you decided to dive into the world of psychology, and what was your push where you knew,
Okay.
I want to study this?
Okay, so I guess when I originally decided to dive into this world, I guess knowingly, I was probably a sophomore in college because I decided to minor in psychology. I was majoring in business and I was already too far along, so I was like, I'm not going to switch my major. I'm going to just pick up a minor. But my love for it, I think, came from just growing up, and that was not my choice. That was just the environment I was living in. And I grew up in a household where my uncle had schizophrenia. And I had a lot of one-on-one interactions with him. But if I think back to the exact moment, it was when I was a junior in high school. I did a science project on my uncle on schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia to be exact. And I won first place, might I add, in my category. And I think that's where my love blossomed for this field.
And you mentioned your environment is what gave you that push. So when we think about social awareness and being aware of our social and our mental health form, a lot of people think of environmental factors. And even for me, when I look at it, I work with children with autism. I'm a mom of a toddler with autism, and we know those kids. My son is one, his social cues are always off. And when you think about it, you're like, oh, he's bumping into things. He's always climbing things. He has no awareness of when he's running into danger. But when we dive into it, it's more than just environment.
Right,
It's
right.
your emotional well-being and your mental state. Could you give us some insight on how social awareness could look from a psychologist's point of view?
Okay, so talking about your environment and how you're growing up, you really can't control that. So a lot of your awareness when you're growing up is kind of, I guess, taught to you or taken on by your parents. They kind of point out different things for you to see. But then as a teenager, late teenager, early adult, once you're out of the house, it's more so your responsibility to be more aware or self-aware or whatnot. So when we talk about from our perspective self-awareness, it's kind of just like talking about your emotions, your actions, your feelings, how they affect the world around you, how the world around you affects you. Just being mindful of triggers, being mindful of your feelings on a regular basis, but taking responsibility for your feelings.
And I know personally, one of the things that I did not realize until I had my daughter and I went through my postpartum phase is my social anxiety was really triggered by postpartum depression.
Oh, wow.
And that is something that I have learned that a lot of other people in my age groups struggle with. And people will be like, well, you grew up in the church. You were always singing in the choir or speaking. And I was like, you have no clue. Even today, I struggle going to Walmart and grocery shopping.
Okay.
Do you have any tips for like people who are saying like, I can't do it. I can't do crowds. I can't do the big groups.
Well, my question, I guess I would dig a little deeper. My question is it more so just I can't really do people and groups, or is it just the overstimulation, or it's just so much different energies in here that I'm kind of sensitive to this and I kind of want to be in my own solitude? So you kind of got to ask yourself some questions and then make a decision from there. But in social settings, maybe if you can pick a focal point that kind of brings you comfort, that can be helpful. And also your grounding techniques. The most common ones are like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the deep breaths, things like that, just to get you through it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's not going to happen overnight, but little baby steps. Sometimes you just got to push yourself.
Yes, and when you mentioned the exercises, it's funny because I am a big Beyond the Gates fan, and one of the things that they mentioned on there was it was a neuroscience, and she was talking to her girlfriend about like her own anxiety about a big event, and they used an exercise. So I was like, wow, that's helpful. But it was also one that I used with some of my older kids, where you just take your deep breathing methods and you use your senses. Name the 5 things that you can hear.
Right.
Remember 2 things that you saw when you close your eyes.
Right.
And I didn't realize how helpful that was, because even after I deal with like the kids that I treat or I teach, sometimes I have to go into the back of the classroom
I
and
get it.
So, are there certain things that you believe can alter a person's self-awareness?
Oh, most definitely. Most common, I guess, is trauma. Can alter a person's self-awareness. Stress sometimes can alter a person's self-awareness. I always make a statement: don't make a permanent decision based off of temporary feelings, because we can get overwhelmed in certain situations. I'm stressed out. You know what? I'm done. Or you get overwhelmed at work. You know what? I quit. And you didn't even think about, your bills don't care about you being overwhelmed. You still got to pay the bills. So don't make, a long-term decision just based off temporary emotions. Take a time out. Take a time out to think, to reevaluate, to self-evaluate, and then make an educated decision.
And when you take those timeouts, for those who have the family members that are like, because for me, I had to learn, and it took me turning 30 to learn. It's okay to unplug and say no. It's okay to pick your weekend where you don't want to deal with people or you want to lay on your couch.
Yeah.
And I tell people, my push is I got out of my bed and I went and got breakfast done and I laid on the couch. Me getting out of my bed and going to my couch was my you made it moment. But then you have people who'll be like, no, that's lazy. Or family members will say, you just need to get up, get some fresh air, and keep pushing. What do you tell those people?
Well, a lot of times, what works for one person is not going to work for the next person. But I have found out that a lot of times in our community, rest is kind of equated to laziness. If you're not being productive and doing something that we consider productive, then you're being lazy, because rest was never made a priority for us. But rest is something productive, because if you don't do it, your body's going to make you do it eventually.
What would you say to somebody who looks at you and say, I'm fine, when you can see them declining and you can just see that they're like, you see the red flags when it comes to their self-awareness, or you can see the fidgeting from the anxiety, or like the regression from depression? They'll look at you and say, I'm fine.
Okay. Are you really? Sometimes you might not even have to say anything. A lot of people are uncomfortable with silence. So when you just look at them, and you might not even respond, they're going to feel pressure to keep talking or to justify what they just said. Then also, if you're a very observant person, just pick up on some of the things that they're saying. Point out, I see that you're shaking your leg. You've been shaking your leg the whole time. Are you nervous about something? And then sometimes self-disclosure too. Just tell them what you've been going through. I thought I was fine too, until my friend said this, or my spouse said this, or whatnot. So there's no shame in it, but kind of just connecting with them in the moment. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but connecting with them in the moment and just being real.
And for parents who say, I didn't see the signs or I missed it, what signs can you give them, or like things to pinpoint when it comes to kids? Because we know, especially when they get to that 12 to 13 age on up to junior high and high school years, anxiety has become more onset in this generation of youth. So are there certain things that parents should be on the lookout for, body language, physical settings, or even like words that their kids might vocalize to them or not vocalize to them?
Right. First, I want to kind of point out to parents that if you are not in the mental health field, you don't study mental health, you're not around somebody in the mental health field, there are just certain things you're not necessarily going to be aware of. So don't be so hard on yourself if there's some signs you didn't notice, because that's not what you do every day. But with that age, they normally do become more secluded, spending more time in their rooms, more so influenced by what their friends or social media or music, all of that different stuff is saying more so than what you got to say to them. But I have noticed just with some of the kids that I work with, music is a big thing. Most kids like music. Listen to the music. Listen to the words. What is it saying? Sometimes it's telling a story that you can pick up on. If they switch up their friend group, they hanging out with a different group than they were to begin with. Pay attention to that too. Um, Pay attention to how they're dressing. I know a lot of kids like to wear hoodies.
Yes.
But still, hoodies cover up scars, cutting, self-injury, things like that. So pay attention to that as well with your children. And you work with children every day, even the younger children. What do you see with them?
A lot of them. And I was one of those moms who was like, I guess it was a blind spot for me because it was my child.
Mm-hmm.
But I would notice every time my daughter got nervous, she would like tap her fingers on something or like rub her hands together.
Yeah.
And with some of the guys more so, they like to rock. And you'll be like, their teacher's like, would you please stop rocking in my classroom and you finish? And they'll rock, or you'll see them like zone off, or like you said, music, they'll hum. And they're not even humming a song, it's just a humming that stays into their mind. I've seen some tap their pencils or even like poke themselves with their pencils to just get that sensation to like ease their nerves to where they're not necessarily trying to harm themselves. It's just like that relaxing feeling.
Gotcha. So good to know. All good stuff to know.
Yes. And how can someone who thinks that they may need a little more help advocate for themselves or like find somebody to go to when they're like, you know what? I just feel like when I'm in certain environments, I'm not as aware of who I am, or I lose myself when I'm around certain people.
How can they get help? You mean like reaching out for a therapist or something like that? Well, first, you might not need a therapist. So at least have somebody assess your circle. I always say that, assess your circle. Who's in your circle? Where's your support system? Are they being supportive? Can you go to them and talk it out? If you need something further than that, okay, then maybe we do need to talk to a counselor, school counselor, therapist, whatever the case may be. Most people are going to automatically default to Google or whatnot to try to find a therapist. And well, for therapists, usually we use Psychology Today. But I like to, if I'm picking a new physician or dentist or whatever the case may be, I like to see their face. If you don't have a picture online, I'm going to keep scrolling. Because I want to see, like, what can I see as far as your personality, who you might be or whatnot. And so go online and start finding Psychology Today for us. But look at their picture, look at their website, even social media. So you can get a feel for who this person might be and are they a fit for you. And then, like I've mentioned before too, a lot of therapists do that free consultation, and then you can get a feel for, is this something I even really need? Because I've had clients come in here and ask me, do you think I need therapy? Am I crazy? No, you're not crazy at all. But all of us can benefit from preventative services or somebody to help us learn self-awareness. So it's never a bad thing to just check in.
Yes. And let's take a little shift when we talk about self-awareness. Our physical health plays a big role. And we know in today's society, when we go to doctors and we tell them that we feel like something is ailing our bodies, a lot of times for our people, especially women, it gets swept under the rug or misdiagnosed as something else.
Right.
When all we need is like somebody to give us a leeway to where maybe the doctor tells us, oh, it's something that is medically wrong with you, but it's hidden trauma. How do we advocate for ourselves when it comes to a medical physician?
Well, a lot of times I don't have a problem with or telling people, if your doctor's not giving you what you need, find another one. Because, I mean, if we're willing to drive an hour, 2 hours, for things that are leisure that we enjoy doing, why not do that for doctors as well? Because that's our help, that's our livelihood or whatnot. So just if your doctor's not listening to you, find another doctor. And when it comes to your doctor, it seems like sometimes they might respect if you've been actually monitoring these symptoms for a long time. So keeping a journal of every little thing that you experience. When did you experience? What does it feel like? So that any question they have, you got to answer for it. I've already looked into this. I've already looked into this. You kind of come up with some of your own answers. But then if they're still not willing to listen and to help you in that area, find another doctor. Keep going until you find what it is you need.
And let's talk about those who go to the doctors and have all the tests ran and they have become the hypochondriac of the family. The doctor is finding nothing. The tests are coming back perfectly fine. But then they'll come to you and say, I'm still having chest pains, or my blood pressure is sky high, or I feel it in my leg, my head. There is something called somatic symptom disorder.
Right.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, as far as what I know, that is something normally a doctor is going to diagnose you with more so than a therapist. But we always notice the somatic symptoms that you're dealing with. So when I go to my doctor, like my yearly checkup, they'll do, the blood work, the blood pressure check, put you on the scale, all that good stuff. But my doctor mentioned this one time, the white coat syndrome, which is your blood pressure is usually a little higher when you're sitting there in front of your doctor because you're nervous. So that's kind of related to some of the somatic symptoms as well. That's mental. It's not necessarily that you have high blood pressure. So if you have a doctor who notices something like that, it seems like they're already somewhat in tune to what somatic symptoms are. And sometimes they will just refer you over to a therapist just to see, just to get a evaluation, to see if it's really something that you're dealing with. I do have doctors that refer clients to me all the times with these different things. And then also I say, we've got to be bold for ourselves sometimes. We have to stand up. We have to say no. We have to set boundaries. Yes, doctors are educated. They have their MDs and whatnot, but they're human just like us. So we should be able to talk to them just like they're another human because their bodies are not perfect either. Like I said, at the end of the day, they're human. So sometimes we just kind of got to be bold, speak up for ourselves. Now, I'm experiencing this. You said the tests are coming up negative. Can you refer me somewhere else? What's the next step? Because most of the time they're connected.
And when you dive into those connections, is there an easy way to point out, hey, maybe my high blood pressure comes from something that I experienced as a child to where now as an adult, I thought I forgot it, but there is something that I have witnessed or lived through as an adult that brings back those same childhood traumas?
Yep. In order to do that, with you want to rule out everything you can first. Even with a therapist, when you go through your assessments, we want to rule out medical diagnosis or medical issues. So we're going to encourage a client to go get their checkup, adult checkup or whatever you would call it, yearly as well. So you want to have all the tests ran that your doctor can run, and then if everything is coming up negative, then it's time to go to the next step. But you got to be willing to dig deep, to relive some experiences possibly, to experience that pain all over again possibly, in order to pinpoint where it came from, maybe what triggered it, and how do we need to heal it. But you do have to go back. You can't just, mull over it. Oh, that was something that happened. I dealt with it and, now I'm good. But you're still experiencing all of this stuff. So I would say, how important is it to you to overcome this stuff?
And I'm glad that you noted that they will have to relive it, because that is something with you and I both, we can say that a key factor in our experience are things that we grew up with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had to tell people is that healing hurts.
Yeah.
When I went through my postpartum, it wasn't because, and when people think about postpartum depression, they automatically go to the mom might hurt the child.
Yeah.
Sometimes the mom is scared to death to let the child actually grow up in the world because of things that she endured. And that was my take on things. And there were some things, in order to heal and become the mom that I needed to be, I had to relive some childhood traumas and face them. And even some things that I hid from my parents and grandparents come out and say, this actually did happen to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but see, your willingness to do that is what helped get you through that.
Yes.
Some people are scared. They don't want to feel pain. Our society doesn't like pain. Our bodies naturally want to deflect pain so we don't have to feel it. But sometimes you got to be willing to go through it so that you can come out on the other side of it.
Yes, ma'am. So, can somebody be cured from somatic symptoms?
Yes, you can. I always say, once you are aware of something, then you can change it. So as long as you're experiencing these somatic symptoms and you don't know what they are, can you really do anything about them? It's kind of like when you go to the doctor and you're being misdiagnosed, you're not actually treating the problem because we don't really know what it is. But once you become aware that that's what these symptoms are, they're actually somatic symptoms. They're actually mental, possibly coming from trauma or stress or anxiety, whatever the case may be. Okay, now what can I do about them? Then you can take action. Mindfulness is a really good thing to allow yourself time to just focus on what's going on right now in the moment, to just be, I say. Just allow yourself to be sometimes. Um, Taking advantage of small things so that you're not always stressed out, managing your stress, understanding triggers. When you do encounter a trigger, you have your healthy coping tools. This is what I need to do. So once you make that a routine, you'll probably start to see a decrease in the somatic symptoms. But you got to do the work.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And our podcast is called Serenity Secrets. Serenity
Yes,
is Latin for peace, one of the fruit of the spirit.
mm-hmm.
And when you bring up mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any secrets of your own that you like keep in your back pocket to help you keep your peace and maintain your peace? Because you are a wife, a mom, a therapist, and you also married into the ministry. So that brings a whole another
Right.
caseload of problems on sometimes.
Right.
So what are your secrets?
I don't know if I would really call them secrets. I guess over time, just being in the field of mental health, being aware of what other people deal with, so it made me more aware of myself and what works, what does not work for me. Um, One thing that I do like is being in nature sometimes. Not like camping and hiking, but I do take walks. That is just very helpful for me. Taking walks, I'd rather it be cold because I don't like the heat, but taking walks, being near nature, listening to music, not music with words, but just music itself. Real calming and relaxing music. I like to play music here a lot if I'm by myself or if I'm walking, just listening to music. Something with just different instruments. I like the orchestra, so things like that. Just listen to that kind of music. I also will take a break if I need it. If I need to take a week off from work, I love what I do. I love being a mental health therapist, but sometimes taking on my personal life and what my clients bring, sometimes it gets heavy. So I need to take a break. So if I need to take a week off or a couple of days off, I'm going to do that. I like to do self-care. Sometimes I will go to the spa, sometimes. And in the spa, it's just music, light talking, things like that, that help me stay grounded. And then mindfulness, just kind of focusing on this is today. My daughter mentioned things to me like, because she's in college, I got to go back to school on this day. Yes, on this day you do, but today, you still have today. So let's just focus on today. Let's focus on tomorrow, and we'll deal with that when we get to it.
And that is something I need to do better on, is focusing on today. Because I will, especially when I'm in mommy mode and then with school myself, I'm like, okay, it's today, but I don't know, already planned for next month. So I got to get it together.
And it's not a bad thing to plan. I keep a paper planner. A lot of people, I use my phone and my paper planner, but a lot of people can do everything electronically. I'm not built that way. I've got to have paper. And once I put it on that paper, it's a lot easier for me to not have to carry it around. Because when something coming up, I can just refer back to, oh, I got this going, I got this going, I got this going. So that allows me to be just a little bit lighter.
Yes. And I know for me, one of the things, and I have some students, they'll look at me sometimes because I love music. I love playing instrumentals in the classroom, especially if my co-teacher is out and she's doing her thing down the hallway and I'm in the classroom with the kids. I'll turn on like different Disney instrumentals or like even like jazz instrumentals. And they'll look up and they'll be like, are you playing with Play-Doh or are you coloring with us? Yes, I am, because it's relaxing to me too.
Right. Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
And this episode will air in September.
Okay.
September is Suicide Awareness Month.
Yes.
Do you have any tips or advice for someone who may be struggling or have family members who are struggling?
Well, naturally, we have that, I believe it's 988. You can call or text it. It's for the state of Arkansas. You can call or text that and you can get assistance. But when it comes to suicide, a lot of times people who have attempted, we kind of find out it's not necessarily that they wanted to end their life, they wanted the pain to end. And the only way to end that pain, they felt like, was to end my life. So usually it's about some pain or something that they're dealing with. They don't feel like they can talk to anybody about it, or they feel like they're a burden or whatnot. So I think the best thing that we can do when it comes to suicide, yes, if it's a kid or something like that, you want to pay attention to different signs and changes and things like that. But as parents, we always want to hide our struggles from our kids because we want to protect them. And I'm not saying you're going to share every detail of your life with your children, but you still want to um, let them know you're human as well and you struggle with some things so that they'll feel more comfortable opening up with you about some things. But if you've got family that's suicidal, talk to them. Be straightforward. Talking about suicide is not going to make a person more suicidal than they may already be. Let's be straightforward. Let's not beat around the bush. Are you thinking about? No. You seem very down here lately, and I'm worried about you. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Let's talk about this. Just be real.
And I'm glad you mentioned how sometimes parents shelter their own experiences from kids. And one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past is that growing up, we heard this phrase, and we both, now as adults, despise it. What goes on in this house
Oh my.
stays in this house.
Yes.
Can we give some insight on why that is so harmful, not only to like your children, but yourself as adults and like to our culture? Because when you look at it, and I have younger brothers, and I've noticed that I ended up being the one, and it might have been like my love for psychology, that I was more open into bringing those hard conversations to, and I would get in trouble for it because I was the one that's like, nope, we gonna talk. I'm about to bring it up. You can tell me to stay in a child's place. My sister, she is very vocal. Just, she was born that way. But for the men in my family, I noticed they'll just pack it back and go play football, go play basketball, go work, and be like, that's my coping method.
Yeah.
Because what goes on in this house stays in this house. And even if I got to leave it in that back room, it's going to stay there and I'm not bringing it out.
And that's what is continued to be taught to our boys as well, too. If you have an emotion, then you're feminine, or emotions are feminine, or whatever the case may be. You just got to suck it up and do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? And to a certain extent, you do still have to perform, but you still have to make room for those emotions as well. And I tell people, when a person does not have emotions, that's when we worry, because that's what is the diagnosis of a psychopath. They have no emotions and they have no conscience. If you have emotions, that's a normal functioning person. But what stays in what goes on in our house stays in our house. And I understand that, but only to a certain degree. If what's going on in our house is hurting somebody in our house, it needs to be talked about. There are some things you do want to keep private. You know, aspects of your life you want to keep private. But if it's causing pain to somebody in this house, or potentially causing pain to somebody outside of this house, then it is something that we need to talk about. There are so many cliches in the African American community that keep us in bondage.
Yes.
And we just pass them down because that's what my grandma said and that's what her grandma said. But we haven't taken the time to really, I guess, dissect or explore what they really were dealing with. Now we got a lot more freedom. So once we're aware of something, we can change it.
Yes, ma'am. And a lot of those cliches, I look forward into upcoming episodes where you and I can dive into them more.
Let's do that.
But for some of our audience members who are like, I can't wait till the next Mindfulness Monday segment to hear more from Dr. Williams, how can they get in contact with you if they want a free consultation?
Okay. You can reach me by phone. My number is 870-260-0238. You can also go to my website, which is gnjcounseling.com. You can find me on Facebook, G&J Counseling, or LinkedIn, and you can also just stop by if you're in the area. It's 2503 Pine Street, Suite 2, Arkadelphia, Arkansas.
And thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Serenity Secrets podcast. We hope that you have enjoyed our Mindfulness Monday segment with our co-host, Dr. Cicely Williams. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.